good morning to everybody. I'm very happy to welcome you here at this first event of the Talent City Ostrava conference, which we are organizing as MSIC together with City of Ostrava and Ostrava University. You have plenty of possibilities to choose from the interesting program. We have 3 stages. The first one takes place here in Club Atlantic. It's about talent and entrepreneurship. We have very distinguished guests among us, but I will introduce them a bit later. We also have a stage which is dedicated to education and talent, and there is also a stage dedicated to creativity and talent. Everything takes place in the center of Ostrava, and if you want to continue in the afternoon, you can take the shuttle bus from Stodolny tram station, and you can go to Poruba, where you can continue visiting MSIT's festival, which is actually the celebration of the 5th birthday of Moravian Silesian Innovation Center, and I invite you there as well. Before we start, I would like to pass the word to Andrea Hofmanova, who is actually the leader of the Talent City of Ostrava and the organizing committee. So, Andrea, the floor is yours.
Welcome. I'm happy you are here. It's not a cliche. I'm Ostrava patriot, and I'm always disappointed when anybody says like Ostrava is dirty, Ostrava is full of miners, and nothing is going on. People are leaving. It's not true anymore. And this was one of the reasons we organized this conference, to show what everything is going on in Ostrava, what are the possibilities, who are the talented people who decided to grow their businesses here, support the talent, and motivate the other people. So I hope you will enjoy the conference. You will enjoy sharing of good practices with our partner city from our international Global Startup Cities project. You will get inspired, and you will pass on the word of good practice in Ostrava, because Ostrava is a city of talents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we will start our program with the panel discussion about how can second-tier cities attract and retain talents. We have 4 distinguished guests. Morten King-Gruber from Future Place Leadership. It's a Danish company. Morten is actually behind the strategy of Copenhagen to attract talents and to retain them in Copenhagen. So he will share his experience. He actually helps to many regions and cities with talent attraction management strategies. Then I would like to welcome here Isabel Ribeiro from Braga, from Portugal. She works at the Invest Braga, which is the municipal agency for economic development, and she's responsible for the talent program in Braga and for the Working Braga platform. I'm looking forward to hear what does it actually mean. Then I would like to welcome here Arturo Mendes Villar, who is the founder or initiator of the Global Startup Cities Initiative. He used to work for 15 years in a big multinational company in innovation team, and then he changed his mind and he started his own startup. It's a bit different startup called Global Startup Cities, where Ostrava belongs to. Then I would like to welcome Tomáš Avrat, who has been working for 25 years in branding, marketing, and communication. He used to work for the private sector, but then he switched, and he's now helping the public sector with place reputation. He used to work for JIC, so we know each other from that place, and it was a pleasure to working with Tomáš, and Tomáš is now helping Ostrava with let's say, reputation of Ostrava, or improving reputation of Ostrava. And last but not least, I would like to welcome here Ondřej Dostál from City of Ostrava. He's the head of strategic unit planning in Ostrava. He's the enthusiast, and he really helped us with talent attraction management projects in Ostrava. So thank you very much to all of you for accepting my invitation to this panel discussion. And now I will pass the words to Morten, who actually makes his keynote speech, and then we will continue with the panel discussion. So, Morten, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for inviting me to the conference today. I've been asked to talk a little bit about how second-tier cities can attract and retain talents, and my idea is I'll talk a little bit first about what's happening kind of in the industry in general, and then as you heard, I've spent a lot of time in Copenhagen, so I'll talk about how Copenhagen does it, and of course, Copenhagen compared to London and New York is a second-tier city, but maybe to other places a larger one. So when I talk about Copenhagen, let's think about maybe best principles coming out of what Copenhagen is doing. And then I'll show some examples from some smaller places as well. And finishing with kind of a solution that I find is working quite well on how to attract in particular and retain talents across the world if you are a smaller place. So just shortly, I mean, I represent Future Place Leadership, and we spent the last 10 years very, very in-depth all over Europe, working with most places who are dealing with how to attract and retain international talent. So I have that experience in mind, what's happening out there right now. But as you heard from the introduction, I was part of building up the entire division in Copenhagen. What can the public sector do, working with the private sector, with universities and employers on attracting and retaining talent? So I come to you today both as a practitioner, as an advisor, if you will. I'd like to start talking a little bit about the industry, because when I come to certain places, I was in Norway just last week, and we had a very interesting discussion. What do we do with the human capital agenda? And of course, this is a conversation that pretty much is happening all over Europe, and there's no surprise. I mean, typically when we look at it from a public sector point of view, we start by asking, okay, are we educating the right people? Are people getting the degree to which there's actually work in our region? But once they graduate, are they leaving us for bigger places, for the capital, even going abroad before they even enter the labor market? So do we need to do something there? Or if we just simply look at the labor force we have in the region, do they need to be upskilled so they can actually perform the jobs of tomorrow? Or do we have a large proportion of unemployed, inactive seniors and whatnot that we need to activate? And a lot of regions are doing a lot in this area, but if you want to change these things, it takes a lot of time. It takes years before you see the results. So kind of the short-term solution that many places in the last 5 to 10 years really have started doing is the international component. Can we actually attract what we don't have in quantity or quality? And if you're a smaller place, maybe not just attract internationally, but also, of course, attract from all over the domestic country. And once we've attracted them, are we good enough to actually retain them? Are they staying in our region more than 1, 2, 3 years where we really get the value? And if we zoom in on that area, kind of attraction and retention of talent, what is the typical market failure? Well, what I see really is what I call a zero-sum game. Everybody is going after the same target group. So every single place that I typically work with, they say, hey, Morten, we want to attract people. And I say, okay, let me guess. Are we looking for engineers or are we looking for tech people? Yes, they go. So one word, a STEM. But what's interesting is that we're seeing a local scarcity often, that employers are struggling to find the best and the brightest people that they want to recruit. So they need to go to new markets and explore new channels to reach and do their employer branding and their recruitment. And then they become more unknown. Yet at the same time, places, cities and regions are really trying to support this, but they have limited experience. So what I'm talking about today is really how place and employer branding can come together to solve the labor market shortages that you have locally. And what I see when places come together, it's really then also about what I typically call the soft landing. How can you work on making sure the individual and the accompanying family actually are integrated well into society professionally and privately? So that is an important area. So I said this was a growing industry, and it really has been recognized, the human capital agenda and talent attraction, as kind of a key driver for economic growth for quite a long time. Which also means that when we look at the market, it's not just more about generic kind of country or place branding anymore. It's really specialized niche talent marketing campaigns that we are seeing out there. I think the most interesting development, particularly in the last couple of years, is in the past, it used to be really highly educated skills that people were going after, the specialist, if you will. But now it's much more about the vocational training. It's not instead of, but it's both the high skill and the vocational training, the nurses, the teachers, and the health personnel, and whatnot, so to speak. So it's really attracting everybody that a region needs. And often the first point of action, which I think also is a good recommendation, I particular for a smaller place, we most likely often already have an international community in our place from international students and spouses of the internationals. And they should be the first action of retaining them, retaining the students when they graduate and making sure the spouses also find a job. Now, what's really interesting is what comes first when we decide on our career. Is it the place or is it the job? And there's been a development in this industry for quite a long time that the place matters more and more. We recently worked with Berlin on a talent, an expat survey asking quite a lot of the expats, the internationals already living in Berlin about reasons to come and reasons to stay, because Berlin actually now is struggling post-pandemic, and this is the opportunity for smaller places I'll get back to. Bigger places are seeing a decline in international talent coming in. Post-pandemic, they're not as keen on living in the big cities. But still, for Berlin, what's interesting is people choose the city first and then the job afterwards, which also means that we need to talk more about the place when we promote career opportunities. But really, as I said, what's really interesting happening right now, I still believe that the bigger places will have a strong appeal amongst global talent, but to a less degree than before after what we've learned in the pandemic. And we see that in the data as well. Smaller places definitely have an opportunity because mega cities or the bigger places are losing their appeal a little bit. Now, why is that? On one hand, when the pandemic hit us and we were all in lockdown, a lot of I call it the Bahamas and a lot of exotic places came out with very fun and interesting campaigns. Hey, if you're in lockdown, why don't you just stay at our beach with Wi-Fi and palm trees, and then you can work from here, right? So that's fun and creates an interest. But maybe we don't want to be that remote that, okay, the water looks nice, but maybe we also want to be closer to proximity of other things. I think Estonia did it quite well, where they talk about the digital nomad visa, really catering to people who may be there for short term or medium term, and really set it up. Well, just come here and we'll set up everything very, very smartly. And when you leave, that's perfectly fine too. And I think Finland did it extremely well as well, where they basically said, well, do you want to just come here for the summer? Just test it out. Just be here. We'll roll out the red carpet, and if you like it, stay. If not, you're probably a good ambassador who'll tell a nice story about the 90 days that you spent here. And we made sure you had a good time. So right now, what we're seeing in this industry is actually the balance between, if we are the city or the region, what we want people to physically relocate, right? Because then we get the income tax and we get the consumer spend. But employers might want a hybrid or complete remote solution, so that's a discussion locally. And talents may be less inclined to relocate halfway around the world following the pandemic, although I would say in particular, young professionals are eager to get out there and travel again and relocate. And we've seen that already. But then, okay, so what to do? I want to show you here a methodology that has worked quite well from Copenhagen, and then move on to some small place examples as well. In Copenhagen, we talk a lot about the software, the brainware, and the hardware when we talk about talent attraction. And that's a balance between really the quality of life and the quality of offer of the job. Because there's nothing wrong with selling shoes, but we're not selling shoes here. We are selling a life if we're asking somebody to relocate to our region. What's interesting is that what catches people's attention when Copenhagen communicates to the world, come and do a career here, is what Copenhagen calls the software, the more emotional selling points of the place. For Denmark, the example would be the work-life balance, the very market leader on going green, sustainability, the leadership style we have in Scandinavia, which is very flat with the manager on first name and no corner office, so to speak, and basically partly due to the work-life balance, also a happier life. Danes tend not to smile, but are voted frequently one of the happiest places in the world. So that's kind of the initial part of the storytelling. Then second part of the storytelling is what they call the brainware. A mistake many places do is, we need talent, so come to us because we need you. But in reality, if I'm looking to relocate to Ostrava, it's important for me that I see that it's an add-on to my resume. So really, what's happening in the ecosystem, in the industry? What skills will I gain? What's the long-term growth opportunities I will have there? So that's kind of the brainware or the bragging list, if you will. And then lastly, the hardware. Ultimately, it's of course about the job. So what job opportunities are there and what benefits can I get from working in those companies? And then they put that together in a storytelling. This is an example from the gaming industry. So there's a fun gimmick on we know how to play in life and play professionally. And that storytelling then comes to life in various campaigns that they do, which is a classical marketing funnel. You do the marketing push, the outreach, you need to reach a lot of people, and then it funnels down to who clicks on you, who signs up, and then you can ongoing target them with communication. You work with employers who have actual job openings, and then there's an agreement on Copenhagen Capacity Economic Development Board. They do the marketing push. They do a soft screening of the candidates and then either involve recruitment companies or simply pass on leads to the companies to hire them themselves. And it works quite well. But it's not just Copenhagen doing this, and if we go to smaller places, this is a campaign we were actually part of in Italy, in the Emilia-Romagna region. They were interestingly saying they were looking for tech talent. They were being honest, Morten, we're not Silicon Valley. We cannot compete on salaries, for example, like the Nordics, but we still think we have something to offer. And these are some of the ads that perform most well in the campaign. And you don't see any jobs on that campaign, right? You don't see you see the nature, you see the place. And the storytelling was La Dolce Vita. If you want to live the high life, you're going to enjoy kind of the Italian nuance of life. Come here, and then you'll have a great job as well. If you are a smaller place, and this is where it gets interesting, this is Örebro. Örebro is 2 hours drive from Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. They basically did a campaign where they teased the capital. And this says here in Swedish, save a person from Stockholm. If you live in Stockholm, you spend approximately 8 days more a year in traffic than in Örebro. And if you live in Stockholm, you have an apartment for the same price, square meters of that apartment, you can buy a castle in Örebro. So they kind of made a fun gimmick around that to stand out. I really encourage you to check them out. They have a smart move is kind of their concept. They actually just launched the campaign yesterday, again going out to promote a smaller place. So that's a good reference point for you, I believe. I'm also a big fan of small place Oulu in Finland, because I think what you really need to figure out is what's special about us. How do we stand out in such a crowded market? And this, I often, when I present, is what's going on here? Well, it's quite simple, really, once you know it. It's an investment pitch. It's an entrepreneur. He's allowed to pitch as long as he can stay warm in the freezing cold water. And then he's allowed afterwards, you see the staircase to go up to the sauna. And we think Finland, we think lakes and saunas. So it's true to kind of the country DNA and the place, but it's also fun and exciting. It's a different way to do a pitching contest. So the world media was there immediately, as were the investors. So it's a way, a small place by inventing polar bear pitching, which is true to who they are with a fun twist, all of a sudden has free marketing because it goes viral immediately. But in order to start, in particular if you are a smaller place, I would say let's get the stories out there from the local people, the international community already there. Here are some samples from Gothenburg and Kristiansand. And this is not stuff that goes viral. This is not a million likes and hits and whatnot, but it's peer-to-peer storytelling from the international community already in the place, sharing on their wall, their social media outlets to their friends who happen to be old colleagues and old student people that studied the same, hence the right target group, the story of them living somewhere else. And then it becomes interesting when people say, oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Let's FaceTime. Let's have a chat. It's almost one-to-one marketing that works quite well for smaller places. And then I'm coming towards the end here. Let's not forget, if you're successful in finding your niche where you stand out and communicating your story and people start coming to you, unless you've optimized the soft landing, then you will get nowhere. So this is Aalborg, little small town in North Denmark. They have an international house, as does Copenhagen, as does many places across Europe, really taking care of all internationals coming in and supporting companies in the needs they have in hiring internationals. So towards the end here, just in a nutshell, if you want to attract talent, if you're a big place or a small place, this really is the methodology that works for Copenhagen, it works for Oslo, they're doing it right now, it works for Örebro, the smaller place I just showed you. So it starts with, okay, if we need to have multiple employers coming together so we present an attractive medium. So what is the most sought after profile that we're looking for? Okay, if we can identify that, then what kind of person is that? What drivers do they have? And how can we match that with the offering we have from the place and from the employers? And then now we can do physical things as well, but primarily what places are doing right now is online marketing campaigns to prioritize the markets and individuals, and then take those that are interested and feed them into a talent pool system where you can allocate those to specific employers who can then, of course, do their normal hiring processes. But then you, as the place, can ongoingly then kind of nurture that pool with information and developments from your city. That's how I would do it if I was a smaller place. And it's also how bigger places do it. So those were my opening remarks, but happy to, if time allows, take a question, or I'll stay on the panel as well, of course. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Morten. I will, again, change in the program. I will ask people from the audience if you have any questions, you can just ask Morten. Tomáš, okay, not from the audience, but one of our panelists.
I have a question. You mentioned a lot of cases
Yes.
from the Scandinavia. So, is this region the best ones in attracting talent worldwide? What do you think?
It's going to sound false because I'm a Viking, right? I'm a Scandinavian, so I might be subjective in the matter. But the short answer is yes. I would say Denmark and Finland has been leading this for quite a while. Sweden is trying to catch up, and Norway is really getting started now. But I could have brought a lot of cases. There's interesting things happening in Germany. There's interesting things happening. I mentioned Italy, but the Netherlands is quite strong as well. In Eastern Europe, I've seen a lot of action as well. It's kind of ironic that if you are from Scandinavia, we used to attract talent from Eastern Europe places in the past. But they become so strong that they themselves are now attracting talents because they have a strong value proposition. So it really is an even playing field now. But yes, Scandinavia tend to be quite good at this.
Thank you.
Any other question from the audience? If not, we will continue with Morten. Thank you very much, and I'm very happy you agreed to cooperate with us within the Regional Innovation Strategy, the working group Talent Attraction Management, because I think we can learn a lot of you and we can help Ostrava to grow faster and to become, your competitor on the international field in attracting talent. So, in 5 years' time, it will be Denmark versus Czech Republic and Ostrava. that might be a vision. No, I was just kidding.
Well,
thank you very much for sharing all your experience.
Just quickly, I think, yes, you may feel that you are competing against Copenhagen, but in reality, we also need to talk about talent mobility, and we need to work together to position Europe as the talent hub of the future. And then we're not competitors, but collaborators. Exactly. So I like to talk about also talent mobility and working together. So let's do that.
Thank you very much. Now I have a few questions for our panelists. Isabel, you come from Braga, which is also a smaller city in Portugal. So what are the main activities of Braga and Invest Braga in the area of attracting, developing and retaining talents in Braga?
Well, in the first place, thank you for the invitation. And I see a few of Ostrava. I don't have that opinion. It's a beautiful city with beautiful buildings. So I have my work life a little bit easy because Braga is a city that all over the years we attract a lot of big companies and multinational companies. So that helps us to show how is easy to live in Braga. Mm-hmm. So I have my work a little bit facilitates. So in terms of the city, we are the third city of Portugal, but we are the city that grows more in the last decade. We grow 6% of the number of inhabitants. So I think is a point that we are doing the right things to attract talent, especially Brazilian people. Mm-hmm. And because we are a safe city and we have work for the people. We have employers for the people. So I think our main goals of the city is the quality of life. We don't have the high salaries, but we have a good quality of life. We have lower prices comparing to the cities around us, even the cities that are not so big as Braga. So our quality of life is the top on Portugal. And we have big companies like the research center of Mercedes, 3 research centers of Bosch, and a lot of IT sector and multinational companies settle in Braga in the 5-6 years until now, like Fujitsu, Accenture, Issue, Checkmark. So when the first come, the others more naturally come. We have even 3 big universities in the city, and we have a lot of courses of technical areas. So this balance is working well, and with the new habitants that we have in Braga in the last 2-3 years, we can do the requalification of these people to do the quick balance between what we need and what they have in their profiles. Our university every year receives 20,000 new students. So it's up to us showing that students that settle in our city 3 and 5 years, more or less, what is the companies, how we live in Braga, how is our culture. So when we show them that it's easy to live in Braga and they have a lot of opportunities to settle in Braga even when they finish their academic life, they stay naturally. It's because of that too that we are one of the most young cities of Portugal. More or less half of our population of Braga have less than 40 years. So it's a young population because the students, they come to study in Braga and then they stay in Braga. So I think it's 2 goals that we are achieve. And Invest Braga in 3 years from past, we do a big program, names talent program that aims to create, retain talent to our city. And we do lots of things like this one. We belong to several of cities and network cities to show this to people. And this program developed with the companies, the students, the employed people, the national employer and training centers, a platform who names Work in Braga. That means to do the quick match between the people that are available to work in Braga and the companies they are installed in Braga. So if you check in this moment what is Work in Braga, you don't see all because you need to register and be submit by Invest Braga, approved by Invest Braga. Then you can do communications, you can send messages, you can see the companies, you can speak with the human resources of the companies to do the quick match. And even when you don't are in Braga, you can are in another part of the world and see what the jobs they have, what are the qualifications that Braga needs. If I don't need that type of qualifications, what I need to do and what we have for them to more quickly be absorbed for our labor markets in Braga. Invest Braga, with this platform, can have statistic data to see what is the major demand of profiles and what we have available. And then we do requalifications and courses for the people who have exactly the profiles that we need in more number of employers. So
So do you have any statistics how many successful matches you did via this platform?
we have, but it's I don't do nothing of new, and I don't say nothing of new because the the biggest profiles that they need is from the area of engineering and IT areas, and we do in the past, and we are doing now requalifications of people because we have very courses, but it's not enough.
Okay.
And we can every day we can show we can see the movements of the human resource, the demands, what they need, and we can act for that number be balanced.
Thank you. From what you said, I think there are many similarities between Braga and Ostrava because we are the third city as well. We have 3 universities, so I can see many similarities, but also some differences. Ondra, can I ask you what actually Ostrava is now doing in the area of attracting and retaining talents? What are the successful examples from last 4 years? So what we've managed in Ostrava?
If I could think about what's interesting in Ostrava, it's definitely the industrial history and the industrial heritage, which there are not a lot of cities can say about it. It comes, of course, with many challenges, but we are proud of that, and we are trying to use this as an advantage. So, if you know, for example, the Dolní Vítkovice area, you must know what I'm talking about. And for example, in general, in Czech, when expats say in Czech Republic, they see the biggest level of safety, top health, quality of health, and low unemployment rate, which is interesting for them. And if I should be more specific, in Ostrava, let's say I think we are interesting because of the affordable housing. The prices for living here is very low comparing to other regions in Europe, and a lot of greenery, a lot of mountains around the city. So the expats usually say there's a good Ostrava is a good place with work-life balance to live in. That's what we heard from Martin. To be honest, we've got a lot of challenges like low entrepreneurship rate, low lack of quality of employees, and so on because of the industrial history as well. So it's connected with the brain drain process, and what Ostrava is doing today is it reacts on these challenges. We know about it. So we, for example, created this strategic development plan of the city together with citizens and with stakeholders, where we focus, and the main goal of this plan is to stop the brain drain until 2030. Which means that the talents are in focus of this plan. So to be specific, for example, on this low entrepreneurship rate, 5 years ago, we established the Moravian Silesian Innovation Center. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you very much.
And we established the Innovation Center deals with and helps the startups and the innovative companies to grow, and doing the great job, and there are very professionals there. The same as this Expat Center we established 2 years ago. They attract or they retain and working with the expats in Ostrava and their families. They are looking for a job for them. They're helping with the local services. They are looking them to join the communities and so on. And the city itself has this talent management program where it's helping the scholars or the students or the young talents to realize themselves in the city and to stay here to the city and not go out, for example, always. And this is very important, and we believe that in few years the Ostrava will be no longer the city which people choose to live because of these activities, and there is much more of infrastructure, top quality architecture, buildings, universities are attracting talents, you know. It's about more public space, about the greenery and so on. So it must be wide complex of activities that the city should be attractive for the talents outside, and that is which is important that not all the projects from the plan and the flagship projects of the city are only from the city itself and its organizations, but half of them are from universities, from the ministries, from the transport companies, from the public, from the private sector, private investors, and so on. And this means if this will help, we believe that Ostrava will be more attractive to talents in a few years, and for the newcomers to the city will be the city where their new stories begin.
Thank you. What I really liked from Morten's presentation was when he mentioned this ambassadors program. I think this is something we should work on in Ostrava, because this is something, I know we are in the beginning of the process, but this can really help. So I'm looking forward to our discussions during the working group meeting. So I think we will have a lot of different ideas which we should put into the practice later on. Arturo, from the ecosystem level perspective, because you are actually trying to put together the Global Startup Cities initiative, which brings together the private, public sector, the universities, and other actors. How can cooperation between different ecosystem stakeholders can influence the place reputation, basically to improve it or to worsen it?
Thank you, Adela. Firstly, thank you to all of you to be here this morning. And just to connect with this cooperation, Morten, I would like to know, in this picture of the lake, the pitch, how many times is 1 minute? I suppose not more, yeah? I guess.
It depends. Some can go for quite a long time.
Okay. No, I was just as a starting joke about this picture, because at the end the cooperation is to be unique. So each ecosystem we need to be unique. So the first question that also I will ask you, that you can be thinking now, is in what is unique Ostrava? Because when we are talking about talent, we are sometimes missing many words, but at the end talent is equal to founders of startups. Any one of us, we can found something. Other thing is that you can do at public level, you can do at private level, but all of us, we can be founders. What is to be a founder at ecosystem level? This is what we are trying to start working. For example, Ostrava is trying to have better relations with Valencia. Why? Because Ostrava, we believe, can be unique in the environmental technology, related what Andrei is saying about this industrial background of Ostrava. You cannot say, oh no, we are going to be a super clean city, beautiful, of course, but you need to continue what you are now unique, because Brno will have other advantages. And this is the start of the cooperation. As mentioned, Thomas, is very clear for many years that there is no competition, it's cooperation. The people say competition is because they are afraid of the others, more than looking to say, okay, I'm good in this, I would like to collaborate with you because you are good in another thing. So let's focus more in the question of the cooperation at ecosystem level. We are trying to put a very concrete milestone every year, that is the Unique Summit. Unique, again. It's coming delegations from all these startup cities. So Ostrava is preparing a unique delegation going to Braga this year. And next year, by the way, I can announce.
Yes, you can.
It's going to be in Ostrava, okay? So please take in your agenda, November, last days of November, we have already, it's always a fixed, more or less, timetable there. So take this into account, that we have 1 year, nearly, to start working to be unique, to show the uniqueness, and this is very related with the talent attraction, because what we want with this concrete milestone is that the city starts showing what you can really do well as a unique ecosystem, and also the other ecosystems can use this moment to cooperate better, okay, with the city. So now Ostrava is preparing this cooperation, especially with Braga, and next year Ostrava will do the same. We don't know what will be in 2024. So for example, Morten, you mentioned STEM. I will suggest that you check STEAM, like STEAM in the industrial, because the arts part is critical now as well in this talent attraction, okay? All the question of the heritage is very important. You put a picture, I'm from Spain, in the beach. You mentioned Scandinavian. I need to be a question mark here because now this is changing a lot after these last 2 years. The pandemic changed the mentality. People are looking for to the personal point of view in front of the job point of view. And if you check, Thomas, and you can review the data, how many Scandinavians go after they retired, they are not living in your countries, are moving to a better places. So that's, for me, the real 2030 challenge is, if I born in a place, I would like to die in this place. So only what we are missing is this founder strategy that we are working at ecosystem level. So, for example, one good activity as a challenge for this to the Unique Summit Ostrava next year. Let's identify the best founders in Ostrava and surrounding, okay, in Czech Republic, because Startup City Ostrava is not only Ostrava, something that for sure MSIC will do a great communication campaign for that, is that you identify 10, 20 founders, different of course in fields, that they can explain, okay, why they stay in their cities. For
And
me,
actually, you will hear 7 founders today, and they will explain why they are doing their business from Ostrava.
Correct.
So it's later on.
that's for me the most important message, because I absolutely appreciate any feedback from outside any city, but the most important is to know the ones that are in the city, because it's the best attraction is to really know what is happening with the people that already stay here. So that's for me the initial inputs. Okay, thank you.
Tomáš, you have been working with many regions and cities in the Czech Republic. I know you did a great job in Brno, in South Moravia. You are now helping us, but I would like to ask you if you have a good examples of cooperation between public and private sector in the Czech Republic. Not from abroad, because I am pretty sure we have such examples, but do we have such an example in the Czech Republic?
Yeah, if we exclude Prague as a capital,
Yes, please.
so I think that my answer is city of Brno. Yeah. Not because I was working there for 7 years, but because of the success of to attraction the young people from rest of the Europe. Yeah. But contrary to the city of Ostrava, there is a big difference. Here I see there is the huge sense of urgency. The theme of attraction of talent is in the strategy of the city and the region as well. There is a platform for the companies, for the people to act in the, let's say, talent attraction management. But in Brno, there is no real strategy for talent attraction management. Yesterday, I watched on the Czech TV on the debate of the candidate for the mayor of the city of Brno, and the talents was not the issue. The politicians doesn't see the talent as a main driver for the city of Brno growth. So why the city of Brno is so successful with attracting talents? I think there is a mixture of these factors. The first one, the strong innovation ecosystem itself. Yeah, combination of the companies, startups, global companies, universities, research centers, and residents as well. Then the role of the business support services companies, because these are the entry points of the majority of the international talents for city of Brno. And what is the interesting is that the majority of them stays in a city of Brno after leaving these companies, because they are able to have a job in the startups, in the other smaller companies. So don't forget on the role of the main international companies as an entry point for the talents. Yeah. The strong Brno Expat Center as a soft landing services as well. But what I would say another key issue of the success is the role of the destination management organization of the local tourist information center, because this public body is doing the very well job. It means that a lot of gastro clubs A lot of these, I would say, soft factors of the success of the city are so successful, and thanks to this success, the city of Brno is mentioned in various international newspapers, not only in a technical one, but also in the traditional one for the standard of living and so on and so on. So it means, don't forget, with the on the comparison with the tourist industry. Yeah. And what's also very important in city of Brno is the investment into the international reputation from public and the private sector. And contrary to that, there is a huge marketing support of HR activities of the main employers to attract the international talents. It means this is the only one, I would say, platform to make a common marketing to attract talents, to invest not the campaigns, but to support the campaigns of the employers. Yeah. City service in in English. I think this is the crucial point: how to declare that we are the city for the international talents. So all to all, it works. City is attracting the new talents, and without strategy, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. But it works.
It works. Yeah.
But I think we are on a good track in Ostrava as well, because we have a strategy. We already have some measures which have been implemented, like the soft landing services of the Ostrava Expo Center, the expo centers of different universities. We support the entrepreneurship and so on and so forth. But we still have a lot of work ahead of us. But when I see a big interest, and you represent the interest, I think we also have the support from the public, and that's very good. Because we are a bit late, like usually, I will now pass the words to the audience. If you have any questions to any of our panelists, to Morten, please feel free to ask. Wendy?
Thank you. I have a question to the women from Braga. I'm sorry, I
Isabel.
didn't listen to the name. Sorry. You speak about the quick matching project you have, and my question is how long and how many people works on this project? Because it sounds like very great project and very attractive for the talents and for the students and for the maybe employees, but it could take a long time, I think, and many people maybe.
The platforms works very well in digital way, but we have in the department 3 people helping the talent that wants to live and work in Braga. And we have all the human resources of the companies, they are registered to help us too, because they need the talent. We don't do nothing alone. So answer your questions, we are 3 in this project managing this platform, but we are the support of all the companies that are approved in the program too. In this moment, they are 208 companies. And we have all the talents they want, even you, if you want to see, you just need to submit your application, and you can also connect with us and directly with the companies. So you can ask what you want. You can see the name of this platform is Work in Braga, but this platform helps wants to live. How cost a house? What is our cost of living? The system of transportation, our culture, our festivities. We show all for the talent who wants to do that choice and study if Braga is a good idea to live and work, to see previously what is Braga in digital way, of course, but we are there to support.
Yeah, but for 21st century, I think is the most important things to know where I want to come and how can I live here.
You can even see what is the events that we do all over the year, and this year in November, what event we have in Braga, what we have in December in Braga. We have the concert of Dua Lipa, we have this, we have that. You can see the courses of our university. We can put you on conversation with the university or polytechnical schools or technical schools. We do this match, of course. Work is the focus, but we help in the others areas to study, live, work, visit, and invest in Braga.
You have to have a very good communication and cooperation with all of these stakeholders here.
Yes.
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 It's the main point. I
It's
think.
easy to invest Braga and the Work in Braga project because our president is also our mayor. So it's a little bit easy. We are close to the mayor. Just knock out the door.
We need to waiting for our election.
Yeah. We have the elections in, I think, 2 weeks' time.
In 1 week.
In 1 week already.
I'm
so.
counting.
He understand the importance of have talent in the city, and he understand the importance that we need to attract more talent to support the companies that we have in Braga, and we have more and more companies, especially in IT areas, coming to Braga, and we need continue these ideas and in this ideal to attract more and more people in all over the areas. When they come, we help to re-education some of them to the areas that we need.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Any other question from the audience? Yes.
I would like to respond to actually what Mr. Albert was mentioning when he was talking about Brno and why Brno is so successful. And definitely, I'm sure that all these points are very important that you mentioned concerning the innovation and business support and all these soft landing things. But I think that one very important aspect, because I know Brno very well, is that it's that there's a very open vibration.
Yeah.
Concerning welcoming new people, foreign people, expats. There is this openness that somehow does not seem to be yet, hopefully, here in Ostrava. And I think that this is why our foreigners and expats feel somehow isolated and, you know, it's getting better and better, definitely. But still, I think this is a very major point where they feel somehow not integrated enough. And my second part of the question would be to Mr. Rodriguez from Braga. I think because I have lived in Hawaii for some years, and I know how it is important for foreigners to be welcome and feel well. So I know you mentioned that actually, and I really like the perspective you said. You said like we actually ask how, and we show the people coming how we live in Braga. What is our culture, how they can actually be welcome and feel home, what is their need and what are their needs. And I think that this is something very important, which I think we have still as Ostrava something to work on. And I would like you to ask if you could mention perhaps a little bit more of those soft support things that actually make people feel really at home there. And hence, when they are settled and rooted well, then they can actually open up their potential to the city they decided to live.
Exactly. As I say, the main nationality that we are welcome in this time is Brazilian people. And it's a little more easy because they speak Portuguese as us. And Braga is the first destination, not Portugal, is Braga. And because they start coming, and the others comes with that. A good example is maybe the festivals that we promote for them. They are a special culture, samba and some. Don't you know if you are familiar? They are very happy people, and they choose Braga because we are a safe city. When they come, they see that they are welcome. They speak the same language, so it's easy. We show to our inhabitants that is good for their local business too. We have more people in the city, so we receive them as the same people of Portuguese as the same, and we also develop in terms of culture. They are invited to be in our culture, but we do some things to preserve their culture. We have just an example. In a few days ago, we have a big event in Braga who names White Night, 3 days, and is our event. But in specific moments, they have a Brazilian event to show that they are welcome. They are part of us in this moment, because in 2 years they came so many Brazilian people, and they are good welcome, and they are living well with us. It's easy, this kind of integration. But we have also Ukrainian people, and we do the same in a little scale, because they are in the moment more fragile, and we don't do some festivities or some with the same way, but we do all the same things with the Ukrainian people. They feel well with us.
May I react
Yes,
on,
yes.
on the theme of concerning
Thank
the integration? I think that if you want to be number one, behave like number one. It means, for example, to make a standard the English language within the city. It means that all public newspapers, programs, festivals should be in English automatically. Then you make a signal to the residents, that to the locals, that the English is a standard, is not something extra. Let's show it in the city transport. Yeah, the English in the city transport. So this is one of the a small step, but
Yes,
showing the
important one.
big preference for having the international audience here.
If you allowed me just a little example too, we have a few large companies that in the service, which the main require in profile is some specific language. So in the past, when we received certain nationalities, the language is an issue, but now is the main advantage for these people, because they are automatically say go to Web Help or go to Solutions 30 because they need you, and we are helping that companies grow in Braga too, just because of that. Because sometimes we receive some people, what we do, and now we know just their natural language is an advantage. So we have 2 or 3 companies that do the same work in integration as we.
Thank you very much for interesting discussion,
If-
for
if-
very interesting questions. Morten, you wanted to add something?
I was just going to join in quickly and say, sometimes I say, if you want to start with attraction, start with retention, just picking up on what's talking about. Because if you start attracting before you fix the pain points that the international community already has, you're only going to multiply that problem. So making sure the soft landing, the initial arrival, and that people stay should be a first priority. Because if you haven't fixed that, it's pointless to attract new ones.
Yeah.
So I agree with where the conversation is going.
So thank you very much for this last comment, because I think this is very appropriate. So thanks a lot. Thank you again very much. And actually, I have two things you should take away from this panel discussion. The first one is, in the end of November 2023, we will host a unique summit with more than 400 startups and companies from abroad and from Ostrava as well. And I think we should start our talent attraction campaign with teasing Prague like the Orbero city in Sweden did with Stockholm. So I think we can agree on this one. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Morten. We will now switch into Czech because the rest of the program will be in Czech language. So thank you again, and looking forward to speaking to you on Friday. Okay, bye.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Morten.
Enjoy the workshop.
Bye.
Tak, my teď jenom prohodíme vystupující. Thank you very much again. Já bych přivítala kolegy z Slezské univerzity v Opavě a z České zemědělské univerzity, jestli se můžete posadit. Teď nemáme přestávka bude až 11 hodin 15 minut. Pokud se budete odskočit nebo dojít provodu, tak určitě můžete.